I'm here with His Excellency Ambassador Mr. Maurice Peter Kiwanuka. And today we had an interesting talk on cultural diplomacy and sustainable development, actually. My first question is, you put out this bold controversial statement that there's no link between cultural diplomacy and sustainable development. Can you maybe elaborate on that a little bit further?
Yeah. Okay. Maybe to correct a little bit, I said there is little connection because cultural diplomacy is whereby one respects the culture of the other. But and then sustainable development also is restricted too much to environment, preserving the environment for the next generation. Now, first of all, sustainable development is too restrictive, the terminology. It should be broader, whereby sustainable development is not only to do with the environment, but to do with the whole setup of development, whereby you share technology, you share everything. So you share all the forms of life so that you don't create enmity in me. So that I say, then I look at you with a bad eye, because that's not a very good recipe for future relationship and what. So you should not stretch culture too far, cultural diplomacy. When you come to me to talk development, or if I come to talk development, you should not consider my culture. My culture has nothing to do with the development. I want to put on a nice shirt like you. I want to put on a nice tie like you. I want to put on a nice shoes. I want to have a nice camera. I want to have an iPhone. Now, talk that. Don't say, oh no, but your culture, according to your culture, these things are too sophisticated for you. Sophisticated what? There is no sophistication. We must deal with the same type of life. I want to drive the car you are driving back home. So if you say that, no, when you are considering development, culture must come in. No. Culture, it depends. It's very limited. For example, as I was explaining, when we are negotiating WTO, we know that the Arabs don't take pork. So when you are negotiating pork, when it comes to the Arab countries, you must be careful. You must not say you are going to trade in pork as you are trading when you are in the West or when you are in Africa. There the doors are open, but there you can do it, within the laws, because, for example, it should be for the tourists, for the people, for expatriates, like that. Even the beer, okay, there I can understand. When you go to India, for example, you must be very careful with the leather bags. You don't take leather bags when you are going to negotiate in India, because the leather bags, they assume you killed a cow, and the cows are respected. They are a deity in India. So you must be very careful. So there, at least, in that culture, there it can work. But when it comes to development, no. When we all want iPhones, we all want, this is irrespective of cultures. So when you find a culture which is oppressive, there are international standards which everybody has to enjoy. But when you go, for example, to a country and you find that women are not allowed to drive cars, for example, and you say that, oh, you women, you should stay like this because the culture is, no. I don't believe that. They must be helped. They must all share the good life everybody is sharing. So we should not tie culture development. This issue of saying that now there is a comparative advantage. What comparative advantage? You people, you have been using these rudimentary tools for agriculture. You have been small scale. You must remain like that. If we got mechanized, you are going to spoil everything. Why? You cannot say that. And agriculture now must be mechanized, irrespective of any area, because everybody was using rudimentary tools. We must break out of that. You can't leave me in that situation. So you must help me. China, you see, China has exploited the Western technology and is almost overtaking the West. But they use the technology. So, but how could you say to Chinese, no, you Chinese, have been like this for centuries. No, you must be sustainable. These things are not going to be sustained. What do you mean are not going to be sustained? So Sustainable development has to be development whereby everybody is enjoying more or less the same standard of living. Okay, I may not, for some it may be an exaggeration, but at least a minimum. A minimum. I may not need to have 10 Mercedes vehicles in my compound, but at least if I have a car, it's enough. If I have, even if I have one, at least that basic standard of living, where I also put on a suit, I can be smart like you. It's enough. I don't need to be white. Like, yeah, I will never be. I'll never be handsome like you. But at least I have all the facilities. I can go to the shops. I can have the pharmaceuticals. So that's the thing we are talking about. Yes.
But don't you think that by practicing cultural diplomacy, by bringing people together, by understanding different cultures, this is the basis of also us talking here? You coming from a different country, me coming from a different country, meeting in this neutral country, and therefore by bringing people together and different cultures together, by understanding each other a little bit more, that this is what you said in this example, a really good basis for trade and therefore also development.
But now, when we meet here, what has culture to do now? Here, what has culture to do? You see, when it comes to development, now for example, I was in Germany the other time. I visited these people. There is a company I visited doing oil, working oil. They have a very big refinery, and they wanted the refinery to come to Uganda. Now we don't talk culture. Culture has nothing to do with the development. I want development. I want the refinery to come to Uganda. Now you're not going to start telling me, oh, but if we come now, what's the culture? What is culture? You know, we want development. You know, we want development has nothing to do, you know, with the culture. Culture, you know, should not be an impediment to development. Development is necessary irrespective of culture. If, for example, we have oil, we want a refinery. Whether we are in Uganda, whether it's in China, whether it's in South Africa, whether it's in Zambia, they all want refineries if they have oil. So their culture should not. Everybody wants a car. Now, what has culture to do with having a car? We all want transport. We all want an aeroplane. We all want the internet. We all want the radios. We all want the iPhone. Now, culture, what has culture to do with that? That is nothing. Development, you must look at the good of the person. Whether it comes from where, the person must share the same quality of life, irrespective of his culture. The culture may be an impediment. The example I was giving, there are some people who are filmed. You see them, they are moving naked, half naked, and they are filmed. And they are not helped to come out of that. They should be helped to come out of that life. But when you film them and then you show them on the internet that this is how they live, that's very unfair. No, that's very unfair. Everybody must be like Bastian.
Well, I as nice as that would be, I disagree. I think everyone should, of course, be individual. But if you say that everyone wants a car, everyone wants an iPhone, everyone wants these problems, don't you think that there's a trend that everyone is just wants the most successful in their like American culture? I have Apple products, American. Microsoft, the big computers, it's all coming there. Also, big fashion labels come from there. Maybe a suit. So don't you think that there's just the different cultures merge? Do you think there's a trend that different cultures merge into one global culture, like the best out of everything? That everyone has a car, everyone has this iPhone, or at least a cell phone. Do you think that this is? It's not we don't have culture, we ignore culture, but it's a different kind of culture, like an international, global culture. Do you see this trend?
You see, culture, maybe unless you mean ethical. You see, for example, in our culture, you greet. You cannot just bypass somebody. You must greet. And when you greet, we are hospitable. When, for example, you come, if you visit me and we are going for lunch, you just join. There is no asking, you know, whether are you going to eat, what. And so there are those minor. They are not minor, but at least they are. But they have nothing to do with the development. Development has nothing to do with the culture. Everybody needs to develop, irrespective of culture. Because, you know, for example, in our countries, this developed country, people go to the well to collect water, to fetch water. They go for firewood. They must live. You cannot live them in such a life. You know, we must all enjoy the Western technology. we must embrace it and also share the technology with us so that we can also produce some of these things, not to be net importers forever. So that when you come, I also need a gas cooker. I also need the tap water. Eh? Why do you say that? No, no, no. Why we are all embracing American technology? Which American technology? It's development. It's development, and it's not actually. It's not their culture because they didn't have those things. Also, they are just inventing these things. The iPhone was not there. This is not a Western culture. An iPhone is not Western culture. These are inventions to better the life of the person, and everybody should enjoy. So they are not tied to cultures. Technology is not tied to culture. No, 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 no.
Okay.
That's very wrong.
And then maybe if we just focus on development, what do you think is the role of development in Uganda right now? If you look at the next 5 years, do you see that there's also sustainable development big on the agenda?
Yeah, definitely. Each country, each government, they make the 5-year development plans, the MTF, mid-term goals, the millennium goals. Of course, development is on the agenda of every country. That goes without saying. And even in Uganda, of course, the intention actually of government, of the president, is to develop the middle class. You see, most of our people are peasants. He wants to move these people from peasantry to a middle class. You see, so irrespective of culture, we have 52 tribes. We have 52 tribes. But you cannot say, no, in the north, no, those ones, they need this type of development. When the government is planning, it does not plan according to culture and customs. No, every place needs a hospital. So you are not going to say, no, these people are backward. They are not yet ready to get a hospital. No, each one must get a hospital. Each one must get a school. Each one must get a road. Each one must. Culture has nothing to do with the development, because we are all human beings. We must enjoy these facilities. So development must be there.
Okay. And the last question then is how to find the balance between development and sustainable development. Does development